Well, hi everyone. This is Tom Lees here from the Recall Singularity Factory game, which is, as you can imagine, set in space because it's the space factory game. I'm so pumped today. I've last stream we managed to export the game and get it out in a zip file, and for the first time in a long time, I put it in the hands of some other people, which was super exciting to be able to share it with a few close friends and allies and get some feedback. As you can see, you might be able to tell I'm standing because I've got a standing desk. So this whole thing's up, and sometime during the video it'll all go woo when I like put it down again. So that should be good fun. Okay, so what do we want to do today? Oh, and be sure to say hello in the comments, and if you like hanging out with me during my workday, please like the video. That'd be great. So, oh, I just realized that I haven't yet promoted my video on Reddit. I usually put it in a watch people code. So let's just look at my channel. Go to where the video is here. You can see myself. I'll probably play myself in a second. So we'll just go to that, and then go to Reddit. I better put it over here for a second in case there's something incredibly personal on the front page, and I need to create a post which is about me polish topic of it. Now watch me polish my game with menus. Yeah, very exciting. And that way new people can find me, and it needs to be in the watch people code. Oh. That's great. Because if I don't do that, I won't get any new people, and I want to find new people. So what's the plan? Okay, so I kind of stream for a couple of reasons that are, I'm hoping that people will learn. I'm hoping people will be inspired. I'm hoping people will feel like the barrier to themselves making progress will be reduced. So you'll like watch me struggle and go, oh yeah, struggling is okay. I'm struggling. He's struggling. Everyone struggles together. But to be honest, I'm actually doing it because I love the company. It's really nice for me to be able to work with someone else because it's a solo game, so it's a bit lonely at times. But with your help, it's much better. So, let's increase my monitor resolution a bit. It's still set for night time. What do we want to do? So, if I was to launch the game now, which I can do, in fact, I need to put a keyboard that has two modes, and one mode is not. Okay, so ship core. So we've got two modes to the game. First thing I want you to notice is when I enter the game, it just comes straight up. So it's there's no option whether you want to play multiplayer or whether you want to play standalone, or in this case we've got ships. So we've got multiple ships, and it's all local player. But if I was to quit this and I was to launch a different scene, this is the standalone scene, and run it. If I was to launch this scene, in this one the game stands alone. There's no little person. The ships don't move, and all I'm doing is testing that things work, like to place conveyors. By the way, if you're playing, if you ever played this game or I give you a copy, you push the R key to rotate stuff like I've just done there. So there's a hoop and there's a little piece of gold going down the conveyor. Okay, so what I want to do is make it so that there's actually a menu that comes up for either of these modes. And also I'd like to make it so that the UI that's in the game is a little bit better, because as you can see it sticks to the bottom of the screen. So I don't resize my window because I know that this isn't going to move. Where it really should be anchored to the bottom of the screen properly. So let's start with the first problem, which is that my root scene here, it has look at camera. Oh, it's also worth noting that my background's really interesting. I've got a grassy environment, so like this, because I like the lighting that I got from this environment map. And then if I come in and I go to one side, you've got these multiple planes that are stars like this. and then I got some code that keeps the stars somewhat behind the screen. But and the whole thing, all the stars are on a slant. Can you see how they're slanting? Because that makes it look better. But it's not really. It's just a kind of mock-up. I wanted it so people who were watching me play the game could see that it was set in space. I'm sorry, guys. It's actually set in a computer. No. So this fakery needs to be fixed at some point, because what happens is if you play the game for long enough, or you zoom out far enough, you can actually build a ship that goes outside of the background. So go for a great voyage into the great beyond, and it's all good fun. So you can zoom out. You see how you zoom out far enough, you can't even see the background. And as you fly, these planets eventually get closer to you, and you fly through those. So creating a proper background that's better than just a bunch of 2D planes would definitely be really nice. So as we get closer this way, we'll see you're getting kind of closer to the background. What's happening here is that the far plane of the camera is clipping into the background. In fact, one quick way of fixing that problem would be to push out the far plane. Can you see how the asteroid layer is now in front of my ship? Another cloud layer. So this is kind of more of my worse is better thing. I just really wanted it to look like a ship in space and get that problem solved, even though it's, you know, not ideal. And one great thing about demoing this on streams is that I get to choose when I fly into the background. I hope that's entertaining. Okay. So my scene at the moment has a route, a star world with ships in it. I've got this particular scene, and then I've got a different scene which is a standalone game. So what's kind of coming into my head at the moment is, do I want to create another version which contains these as children? How do I go about loading that? Do I create a child? Do I create a child for the menu? Do I put these at the top level? I'm just rearranging the scene tree in my head, because I know that a lot of my code, unfortunately, forced to go into VS Code. I'm not this is my first Godot game, so there's probably a lot of things I'm doing wrong. But a lot of my code has paths like this in it, where I go to the root of the entire scene tree, and then I try and find a node from the root. I could probably search and replace for that particular string and try and find a different root node. But what that means is that if I was to put all this in a subtree, things might not work. So let's just see if we can. I know it seems funny on a stream. I'm trying to be comfortable with the idea of learning on stream. New window, and you can learn with me. Let's see if we can find. Oh, great! All these tabs are kind of personal, aren't they? Hide all that stuff. Very smart. Personal information. Main menu. Godot. Design a title screen. A main menu. You'll learn how to design game UIs effectively, how to control a life bar and control the game's UI with code. So it says we should draw a mock-up. This isn't quite what I had in mind, but it would kind of do. You can build it all in a single scene, eventually save some branches as reusable scenes, build template scenes for reusable components, find the main menu, break down the mock-up. Okay. That's right. Okay, so it's just basically telling me how to load, how to lay out everything. I'm sure that this is going to be very useful shortly. Okay, so let's just start by taking this existing ship route. I wonder if there's a camera. How would that camera work? If I was in a menu, I would want the camera, like I really like the way that menus in other games push the game into the background and blur it, and then they show a menu on top. That would be ideal, or not even blur the game behind. But that would require me to capture this camera into a texture and raw it, which is something I want to be able to turn on and off. So what I'm kind of coming up with is I want to create a scene that has this whole lot as a child. So let's create a new scene. Wow. 3D root is starting to sound like the right name, isn't it? So we'll go into the 3D root scene and we'll think about this. We've got look at star world. So look at is where the camera is and has this background in it. And then star world is where my game happens. 3D environment chooses, like, the grass and other lighting stuff. Cursor 3D is stuff that I move around with the cursor, which really should be in UI actually. Now that I think about it. Interact here should also be in UI. Square ghost should be in UI. Select grid. Select 3D, place grid. I might move those into the UI. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start making changes to my code, and the first thing to worry about is to go into here. Nothing is dirty in my repository, so we can make changes safely. Place grid, UI. By the way, that dialog I showed you really quickly before, that was my GitHub commit dialog. Okay. Hey, what do you got that open? That why it was show me the welcome. By looking at the commit dialog, it tells me what things are different in the repository in my own code. So I could see that there were no differences, so I could move on my life without worrying I was going to lose some work. So I want to push Cursor 3D into the UI scene. I wonder? I think I probably have to. Yeah, so we'll go into the UI scene. Right. And we'll right click on this and we'll say merge from scene, and we'll choose the root, and then we'll have to go through each of these, or I could copy it, I guess. So Cursor 3D. Oh, there already is a Cursor 3D in there. Weird, I must have two of them. Okay. Does that mean that my standalone scene, yeah, my standalone scene, I already deleted these things. So my standalone scene is one way of playing a game, and it's got this UI, and so I've got some stuff, some dead stuff in here. I've got a cursor, I need that. Interact here has moved, so we can get rid of this from the root. I think that's already in UI. Interact here, yep. Interact here is there. So fine, so we can delete it from the root. Square ghost should already be in there. Yep, there it is. That's like a blue or red ghost, like square, that you use when you're creating force. Select 3D. Should already be in UI. Yep, there it is. We can delete it from here. And so what happened was that standalone was a copy of root, and then I tidied up standalone, and I haven't obviously tidied up root. There's place grid there. So let's just delete that as well. We've got UI, 3D environment, star world, and a look at camera. So the main difference between standalone and 3D root is that 3D root has a real star world with a script that's designed to create lots of spaceships, and standalone has a fake one that just forwards relevant calls and has a single spaceship. So, oh, good morning, Nesh. Thank you. I think so. And also, I'm hoping it gets faster. Dinesh still says in the chat that the development is getting faster, the momentum's growing, and let me just adjust this camera. Might have got more headroom. I think so, and I'm hoping that because I've got past a lot of the major hurdles, it's just going to get faster and faster, especially if I'm staying in 3D. So, thing in Godot as opposed to worrying too much about like details. So that's the UI. So I'm wondering if these two could be the same scene. Actually, we might not need to worry about loading one or the other. It's either fake or it's real. That's the real option. It's something to think about. So let's just say that this 3D root now is ready to have a menu. So if you're in the menu, I wonder if you probably leave the camera. You don't need the star world or the ships. You need the UI. That's like a game UI, right? What we want is a menu UI. Wonder if we. So when you go into the menu UI, you probably want to just hide. You could just hide the whole lot. Okay. So let's just create a new node in here. So we're not going to create a menu scene. We're going to use this as a base, and we'll add a child node to this root. So and we'll make it a spatial, and we'll call that new overlay, right? And then inside the menu overlay, we create a child, and would be a node 2D. So if I right, and if that's hidden UI scene, so hiding the UI scene is not enough to hide. It doesn't hide the children. It's because of the canvas layer. Okay. So I wonder if I need to turn off that canvas layer. I can't remember how they work, whether they're active. I think there's an active option. Something similar. Yeah, node 2D. Let's just add a child node, which is the canvas layer. And then we put something in it as a child, which is say a button or a sprite. Start with sprite. Right. And material. Just put this PNG in here, I think. Yeah, so there we have a sprite that's on the screen. So it looks like if you've got two UIs visible, they're both run at once, because I've got the game UI and I've also got this and put this at the canvas layer. So if we want to disable those, I wonder if that means that I need to make this canvas layer have a different layer that's higher. Like the other one was 9, so if I make this one 20, yeah, so that means that this one's now on top. I wonder if there's some way of blurring the other one or disabling it. Or I know, I'll probably put something in this canvas layer that blurs it, so we can add a child node that is, I mean, what I'd really like is a smoky panel. Panel, or what else is here? Almost like a sprite, like with a, 2D. There's a tutorial on this. Last. Yeah, those aren't really very useful. We'll just put a black panel behind it. Okay, so Polygon's probably easiest. polygon 2D, create, and inside the polygon we'll make this one black, and then we'll set the alpha to something like, black. We could add a shader to it later to make it better, like a blur shader or something. Yes, we need to make a shape. I imagine I just start drawing nodes. So click the plus. Go. Click. Big as this one is. I wonder if there's like a rect dimension. Right, and then choose how black it is. So let's go back to this polygon and the color, and we'll just say, okay, I really like blue, so just blue but black, and then a little bit more transparent. We need to do something to like hide the rest of the menu. So if I was to run this now, yes, everything looks a bit darker. I'd love it if it looked blurry. Okay. But then the next thing is, can we hide and show? The hiding and showing the 2D node here doesn't actually change whether it's visible. You have to kind of hide the whole canvas layer, I guess. The menu overlay contains a node 2D, which contains that stuff. Can you change the size of window for test? Yeah, that's another good point. So Nish has pointed out that by having a polygon of a fixed size, and I've made that a certain size, I can actually increase the size of the window. And if you can't tell, there's a transition here as I leave the polygon. So I need that to essentially be anchored so that it fills the whole screen if this is going to be my method. So add a child node. If we can make a rectangle before I do the color a colored rectangle. Does sound pretty legit what I'm looking for, doesn't it? Remove this. Go to that now. Can I move? Anyway, so the colored rectangle big, and color. We'll copy this number here, and we'll go into the color rec and click in here and paste the same color, and then anchor. And I should be able to set all these to anchored. Oh, hasn't done what I thought it was going to do, or has it? Oh, it's grow direction I wanted, I think. Oh, I see. I want 0, 0, 1, 1 as my anchor. And then make it a bit smaller. So I think that means if I run the game, I could do this, and then if I run the game, so that's the rectangle I just made, and then as I move this, yep, so that rectangle then follows the size. So I can now close this, and we can make the rectangle as big as the initial screen, or slightly bigger, and that problem is solved. And that reminds me, we should go to the UI, and we should click on this panel, the outer one, bottom. Should find anchor, and right now it should be I think I need to anchor it to the bottom somehow. Yeah, that's just growing it downwards to the bottom of the screen, hasn't it? I wonder how to make it move. Or if I need to put it inside something else. Yeah. I'm not sure how to make that sit at the bottom of the screen just yet, and I don't particularly want to solve that problem right now. But that's definitely something we need to solve. Okay. Okay, so got the colored rectangle. If I run the game, it looks like this. What do I want to do with this? I've got a main UI script, this one here, which understands like what's going on with the game and what cursor is being used for placing stuff. Oh, let's answer that phone. Hold on. Actually, I might just step out of freaking. I'm so embarrassed. Oh. Never be rude to those who you care about. Keep an eye out what you guys. I need to also show care for everyone. So, colorect. So, what are we going to do? I close a window for sound, but I'm getting so hot. Okay. I want to hide and show this. How does escape act? I think escape in the game goes into the menu. Does it? No. Escape in the menu returns to the game. Yeah. How do you get the menu? I need to think about that. It's probably a menu button. But generally you want to be able to push escape a bunch of times and get back to like neutral resting pose in the game. Everything's running normally. So you probably have a button for the menu like F10 or a menu button on the screen. Yeah. Okay. So I have a canvas layer here. Follow viewport. The follow viewport option here, I guess so. I'm not really going to move the 2D viewport. Transform, process, script, layer. I'm not sure how I want this to work. And whether there's a UI here, menu, where does the input go? Who owns the menu? Do I end up putting all the UI in the same UI layer? Because everything you see here is the game, and having multiple canvas layers seems complicated. Trying to design that a bit. Okay, so I think it's starting to sound to me like separating the menu and putting a menu overlay here in the main scene is starting to feel more complicated than it would be if look at the properties of window in Godot. You mean, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. Mesh. I'm going to move this color rectangle into the other UI. So we'll drop this, move that. So we're going to go into UI, and in here we've got a canvas layer. This stuff here needs to be in a game folder or something similar. So let's make a new child node game. So I always do that. So add a child node, I need to type something like node 2D, node, yep, node 2D. and then in here I call that game, and then move all of these things into the game, right? And then think about everything that has a string canvas layer is going to need to know that now there's a game folder. So I can hide the whole game UI clicking this one button. So I need to make sure that everything that's got the canvas layer. There's these strings in my script. They're all here in this one piece of code. And each one of these needs to have a game here. Okay. So this UI script worries about the games. Everything here is to do with the game UI. I was thinking, how does one structure this when one also has a main menu UI? To build. So as you push each of the buttons to the bottom, project main window stretch, project. Something that Nationals was suggested I have a look at. A window. Width and height 920. Resizable yes or less off. Top width, height 9. Not. Landscape. Stretch disabled. So there's an option for 2D stretch. I don't think I want this. I think I want to deliberately run the UI myself. But if I was using 2D stretch, I imagine the buttons would look all wonky as I stretch vertically. Oh, I've got some problems with that one. I forgot to change it. Actually, good. Oh no, actually, I think I do want it. Yeah, because it's quite useful. Okay, so now if I stretch vertically, of course, opcode 28 report. Yeah. So doing what Nesh suggested means that the UI stays at the bottom, but it ends up looking really weird, like really squashed. I would prefer that it moves naturally. So while I appreciate the pointing out the option, I prefer the other option. So I just need to make it move myself. Thank you though. So we'll turn this back to the table. Don't need this UI. I think this is the go.ui file that was found. Yeah, label 3D. So load. So I'm just trying to think about where to put a screen, a script that describes the main menu. It feels like it should really be not like there's the game. So this UI script that's currently here, do we move it down to game here? And then this stuff's all 3D UI stuff. Anyway, let's make a new layer, and we'll call this one menu, and I did it again. It's no 2D, and then it's called menu. And this is where I have a script. So we're going to need to add a child node, which is a main menu. intro. So let's make some more nodes. So start with the main menu. And all the menu stuff. Was that colored rectangle I pasted earlier? I must have lost it at some point. We'll copy it here. And we'll pop it into menu. Okay, copy and paste doesn't work. So we'll use merge from scene. And we'll choose the 3D root. And we'll grab this color rectangle earlier and put it in menu. And then we're going to go back to here and heat. Okay. So I can now hide the game UI here. I've got a menu. I've got this UI. There's a question of if the person's in game or in the main menu. So this needs to know if they are in the main menu. So this is start by making a function in the main UI routine that says main menu, and the first thing we do is call it all, and then we call I want to add another thing that we know about. And root UI right. So we could pull this into a menu and then specify a new name, and we exit all, and then we call menu, which is going to be this node. I'm going to put a script in here in a second. By the way, this is the way I structure my code. I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it. Probably should be using a signal. Okay, so when we call the enter menu function, it goes into the relevant menu by calling enter menu. And then I guess there's a function of exit menu. And on enter menu, we also go, we're going to grab this game node. Right. So we'll call this game. So that's grabbing this node. And what I want to do is go down here to exit menu. And when we do that, we show that node. And we hide the menu node. Hide. And then over here we do the opposite. I might not say menu show here. So game UI 2D hide and menu show. Do we have a little wee button or bind F10? Let's just start with a button. So if I go into I need a colon on that line. Okay. I don't need a semicolon. So if you've come along because you're thinking, this is Rust code, I use all my UI in GD script, and then I do all my game logic in Rust. So most of what I'm working on right now is GD script because I'm mostly doing UI stuff. Enter and exit menu. So let's say we begin in ready. We immediately enter menu, and then in menu we add attach a script. We call it menu. We're going to put the script into the script folder and Y, and we call it menu. Sure. Looks good. So menu file. I'm doing enough coding. I might jump across the VS Code for the thing. Oh, there's no code. None of the code here is dirty. So we'll just others and open new. And now I've got to think to myself, what does menu do? Okay, so we need to have a function that is called enter menu. And it does the show. And next we're going to need a button in the menu that returns to the game. Okay, so we never use menu names. Let's go there. Great. So that was a lot of code we had to write there. Totally worth opening in a different editor. Okay, going back to 2D. Let's just hide the game for a second. So in the main menu, so if we jump across to the Go.tutorial, I opened a Go.tutorial earlier called Design a Title Screen, and it had some ideas about how to split the screen into parts. So it says to use a margin, to use HBox containers and VBox containers and margin containers, right? So they've got a margin container. Let's look at the tree that they generate in the end. Box. Take the margin IC, so they use a margin container and I call that margin container main menu. And then they add an HBox container inside that. Right. So what they're saying is that this one here called main shouldn't be a node, it should be a margin. So change type. So margin container. So saying I should put a margin container there. And then it's suggesting an HBox container inside that. And then it's suggesting a VBox container inside that. And also a center container, which is what holds the logo they have. We'll just put that there anyway. I'll put the center container next. And then they had all the buttons. I'm not sure why the buttons go here. Because in my mind I thought I'd go inside the VBox container. Oh yes, they do. So they end up putting all the buttons inside the VBox container. So what are those buttons? They're probably some sort of graphical button. Anyway, let's add a child node and see if we can find a button. Okay, so I mentioned there's a texture button, a menu button, just a button, option buttons. Let's just start with basic buttons. Later on I'm going to texture these or something similar. So we've got one button inside all these boxes. So we've got main. Okay, so how do we make it as big as the entire screen? So you have to add a root node first. Then select the margin container and hit inspectors to define its size. So scroll down to the control class, the custom constraints section, and then you can set the margins, and it has some ideas. Okay, so let's give that a go. Check that everything's nice on the screen so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to move this across a bit. You don't really need to see the right hand side file window. And I'll just put my face on the other side so you can see the robot screen better. There we go. Let's continue. So, HBox container. So we're going to add margin right, top, left, and bottom. And it has some ideas of the sizing. Obviously, those are going to be different for different screen sizes, but I'll put these in anyway. 120, 80, 120, 80. Those are the margins that I typed in 90. We want the container to fit the window. In the toolbar above the viewport, open the layout menu and select the last option for it. So, in the toolbar of the viewport, open the layout menu and select full it. Okay, so these ones here, I've got these bottom options, center bottom. That's what I should be doing on my other. It didn't seem to expand it at all. Do I need to expand it by hand? Why didn't that full rect option make it expand? That's strange. Now, I was just thinking in the game, for this bottom panel, we probably want the layout, which is center bottom. Right? That's neat. Why? Okay, there's something strange going on with the way I've set this up that's making it not work. I think I need a larger container that holds everything else. I'll probably mess something up at some point. A black screen. It's a oh yes, so it's calling into menu, which needs a menu name. Okay, we'll continue with that. Okay. Big black region here, or in another breakpoint. If I guess the default. I don't want this default. I want anything. That's the thing is 3D root. It's in my UI. Or is this? I need to turn off even the default cursor. Exit all actually turns on the default cursor. Yeah, I don't know why that's getting called. Where were we again? Okay, restart. Oh, no problem. It's stuck in the main menu. So if I had a button on there, I go into 2D and the UI scene. I have a button. I think there's something in my parenting that I've missed. Like there's this outer green box. I think it's probably mentioned in the tree as well. So, okay, the main menu is the main menu at the top of the screen. Your UI's root should be the outermost container or element. In this case, it's a margin container. Okay. For this canvas layer, I wonder if I need to set the canvas layer's anchor or its size, offset, scale, transform. Why do I use a canvas layer anyway? Search doc. Duplicate tab. Because I think that what's going on is the scaling element is inside something that's of 0 size, so it's scaling to 0 size. I need to have an outer thing that knows how big the window is. I wonder if this UI 2D needs to be changed into something else, like a margin container. Let's just make this a margin container as well. So, we'll change type here somewhere. Yep. And we'll set its anchor to be full rect. Okay, so it has some size. Then our main has some size also. And if that's true, then game. I wonder if these nodes do anything or they mess stuff up. We'll have to see. So if I set this, what I initially want to do is go into menu and into its script, and on into menu, we show it, and then we flick straight back to the UI. So let's have a look at the UIs. So up here it has a menu. We want to get the UI, which is here. And on into menu we go show, and then we go UI dot exit menu. I think I already made that. Yep, great. So it'll instantly leave the menu again, so we should go straight back to the regular game. Great. Now the thing I want to know is this, I want to make this panel sit on the bottom, and I think the way to make that happen is to bottom, what is that anyway? It's a tab container, and its layer anchor needs to be into bottom. That's not working. So if I change this type, so rather than a node 2D, it needs to be a control of some kind. We just a container. Change. What's this problem? Container by itself serves no purpose unless the script configures its children placement behavior. If you don't intend to add a script, use a plain control node instead. Okay. That's wrong, so we'll try a different one. Change type. This is to use a plain control node. Okay. My hope is that this game itself also needs to fill the entire rect. And then the bottom panel is now at the bottom. Okay, so that has a size and a shape, and then that would mean that if I was to run the game, yeah, so now that panel is following correctly. So there we go. So we're starting to get to the point where we've got some basics working. Now, I wonder if we want to make that shrink, and if we do, we have to like define button behavior when it shrinks. I don't really want to worry about that right now, but I'm glad that we've got a starting point here. Okay, so then we've got a menu. So based on what I just learned, this also needs to be change type. It also needs to be a control change, and then that means that we're in the menu. We're going to remove the exit menu again. So make a function for that. And that just forwards that UI. Okay. And we're going to call this with a button in a second. So let's say we have a button, so we have a HBox container and a VBox container. So the HBox, in fact, let's just go through the rest of the tutorial because things are starting to make some sense now. So you'll see that the main one is that big, and does it still have the margin? Because I put some margins in here. I think it lost its margins at some point. Okay, so we'll have a look back in this tutorial. I must have pulled something around. So the controls. Go down to the control class, to the custom constant section. Here we go. Here's the one I want to change. 120, 80, 120, 80. Okay. And then hopefully the one, yep. So if you look at the difference here, this one is the whole screen, this outer rectangle here. And then inside that is where the menu's going to be. There's a margin, and the margin here is 80, and on the sides is 120, and that was defined by these numbers I typed in here in the custom constants. Good. Okay, that's starting to make some sense. Then HBox, we want to split that down the middle. So it's telling me to make some textures and so on inside the title and logo. I don't really want to do that stuff. But that's what it looks like at the end. You got an HBox container containing, oh, the VBox container is there. Okay, so it's pushed the VBox container to one side, and then the button is here. Good. So the text on the button is, let's just say resume, right? So you see it's this squidgy little button. Let me just hide the game UI. And there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little button here saying resume, right? So that's a bit squinty. So thanks for joining me, Nish. See you later. I really appreciate you coming by. Thanks. Fonts, custom fonts. So let's use a dynamic font. So settings. So we have a font here somewhere. There's a UI font in here that we've been using. I probably need a nice menu font at some point. The resource of that, yeah, we are lucid agr.ttf. We'll just drop that in the font. And there's a size. Let's just try 40. Okay, 100. Okay, 100 is probably about right. And then we need extra spacing. So let's just make it 10, 10. Oh, there's no. Oh, it speeds up the characters. So 2, 1. I don't want space there. Oh, I see what's going on here is I'm changing the font settings. Okay, so let's just stop. I'm going to undo all the changes I made to the font. And I wonder if I save this resource. Probably somewhere to save this out. Save. And I want to put it in UI fonts, and we'll call this menu button. We'll do it like menu button. So I've just made a little file here called menubutton.ures, and that contains the settings for this font. Great. So my button, imagine that margin is what I'm looking for. No. Custom constants, custom colors, fonts, custom styles, size flags. Wonder how I make it bigger than it's going to be by default. Like these numbers. Okay. Oh, they just move it off from the sides. The size, min size. So I could force the size to be a certain thing by setting the minimum size. Like I set the minimum size here to be 500, then it forces the button to be larger. $200. Okay. The button's as tall as it needs to be. By now it's 125 tall, so let's just put in 150. Great, that feels about right. Okay, so there's a VBox container that contains buttons, and it's inside an HBox container. So let's just, and then there's another container that would hold images. That was the design that I was suggesting. So let's just hide that HBox container and only use the VBox one. Wow, that button's pretty big now. So what we probably wanted was a center container that contained the other menus. So we'll put a child node. Just kind of sketching stuff out in here. Move the VBox container into the center container. So here's a center container. It contains all the buttons in the middle. There's one button, which is resume. Great. And a color vector. There's only one thing the menu does, which is has the resume button on it. So if I grab the resume button and I can go into its I want to modify its signals. Where are the signals at? Bottom right. Import node. Oh, settings, material. There's like a whole signals button somewhere. I've forgotten where it's at. Node. Oh yes, you just click the node button. Okay, sweet. So I want to know when the button's pressed. Yep. Double click on this, I think. Yep. Choose where the signal is going to go. So this signal I want to go into the menu. Yeah, that menu class. And it's on resume connect. And so it calls this, and we just call that a function called exit. And that will return to the game. So let's just run the game. Is this complaining that it should be inheriting from control? Okay. There's the resume button. Boop. And we get the UI back for the whole game. That's great. Okay, so this is the in-game menu. So what's our menu flow look like? just grabbing a tablet. It hasn't been used for so long, it's covered in dust. I've been too busy programming and not enough time drawing. God, so many different parts to being a game developer. Been too busy doing all the technical bull. And yeah. Okay, so with my tablet out, I should be able to bring up a whiteboard. And I'll just make a new one. Great. Okay. So, and I'll just bring up my Wacom tablet controls, which is somewhere over here. So I can choose where I want the screen to go. So it's just mapping right now is way off to one side. So I can even grab it. Just say you wanted to. Okay. Now it's mapped to where my drawing panel is, so I can do it all by hand. So I didn't use the touch function on here too. I need to turn that off. Oh, it was off. I'm just not that very good at using. Okay, I should be able to do line here. Great, and I think I can hold this down to erase. Hold down to zoom. Top one erase. Oh, that's one of those things where erase with the other end of the pen. No. Go to the bottom and choose the eraser. Okay, great. We can do this. Hooray! So, well, we want to load, and then we want to head down into main menu, and then we want to enter a game, and then there's also a game menu, which makes you wonder if the main and game menus are essentially the same thing, but just with some parts hidden or some buttons hidden. And then both of these guys get off into things like options. Game menu has exit, game. What else do we have? So these are basically the same. So you could have a situation where when you load the game, it goes immediately into a quick single player ship builder in the background once it's done, and essentially has a game menu all the time. And then for the options, we want stuff like sound, rendering, great handwriting, Tom. It's totally worth the intro of pulling out the template. Okay, at least I have a better idea what I'm doing. Hopefully you do too. So the first thing we need to do is make a game menu, 2D. So what are all the things that we want to show here? Scene, menu, resume. So let's just brainstorm a few. So we'll just paste the resume button a bunch of times. So it turns out that font is slightly large for this mini. So just grab the font and we'll make that 80. And then we'll grab the button and I'll grab all the buttons, and then I wonder if I can go to the size somehow. Button, angle, grow direction, rect, and min size, make it 120. Yep, that works. Okay, and then I also want some padding. It's probably in the VBox container. And some separation. Make this 10. Make this 515. Great. That center container is drifted down until it's... Has it just got... Yeah, the buttons have got too big. That's what's going on here. Okay. So we'll start with resume, and we'll make the next one. What should we make this one? One ship, and we'll pop that in the label. One ship, local. These are my different modes that I have right now. Local. Next one is options. Next one is down below this one, and this one can be yeah. I think resume usually. So wonder how we make a space. I bet we just put something that's not a button in this. Control A. Just put a control in, create. We pop it in between these. Yep, that's perfect. In fact, that just increases the margin, and then we delete the button, resume button. So that's our non-functional, functional. Got a center container. Why is it so big? The VBox container, center container. Like, shouldn't these buttons float to the top at that point? Wonder if I run this if the center that. Yep, good. Okay, so that's the game menu with all the buttons I want. God, they look massive, don't they? That looks like a mobile phone game. Okay. Let's make them a little bit less massive. I wonder also how they interact with the screen size thing. Yes, the buttons don't change size, and it's kind of disappointing that the centering container doesn't move. Like, I'd expect the centering container to constantly recenter. Is that a problem where I have to let go of the cursor for it to recenter? No. Okay, so there's something missing there. Why can't I move the center container to be in there? Oh, it's centering on the top left. Now it's centering in the place you'd expect it to. There was some way you could change the viewport size. I can't remember what it is. Trying to figure out how to get the center to move. Why does the centering container stop centering as soon as it runs? I'm just going to read this carefully. Margin, center container for the illustration on the right. To check expand in addition to fill. So we select center container, size flags, expand and fill. This. Okay. Does that mean that in the game, it's still running, but it will? No. So let me know if the shrink center. What do these do? It doesn't seem to update. It's kind of annoying. Okay, so I wonder if I move the VBox container directly inside the main menu like this. It wants to expand to fill the whole thing. Not really what I want. Can't change the layout here. Main. Okay. How do I tell the center container to keep changing its size? Reset everything. Okay, frustrating. Let's see, stretch ratio theme. Let's have a look at the center container. Container. Really the camera moving thing I mentioned before. I'm ever tired of standing. So you guys can come down and meet me on the I'm sitting. Oh, it feels nice to sit down. Okay. Move the camera down. We'll move the screen down a bit. Go. And we'll move the microphone a little bit. Let me just dip. Okay, so hopefully that's working okay. No, that's not. Let's move the microphone a bit closer. I don't know why that's not. Oh, that's very, very low volume. Oh, there we are. It's probably a bit better. I'll just bring it a bit closer still, or turn up the volume. Hopefully. Sorry. Okay. Main. Center. Testing the volume. I'm just looking at this bar here that shows me how my volume is trending, and it's still a little bit in the low range, probably about right, I don't know. It seems to be working okay. Center container, canvas item, node object, container. Keeps all children to their minimum size in the center. Yes, so the next question is, why is it not being recentered? Is it because the outer box is not getting changed? This UI. Let's try that. So if we run the game, we have this, and we go to remote, and we click on the various controls, we can see their sizes. So we go into that glitching of the background, don't worry about that, that's just a go.debugging issue. Go into the canvas. It does bother me a lot though. So my question is are these sizes down here changing as I change this? Yep. So that, you see, if you look closely, there's little numbers in the bottom corner here. Just there, I'm seeing them change when I look at the remote tree. So then I'll go down to the next one. I feel like the canvas layer doesn't need to change. And then there should be a size in here somewhere. Menu. Hint. I don't see anything about size in this one. Maybe it doesn't have a size. Okay. So go into main, and I notice these rect sizes here are not changing. So is my problem that the menu, this menu, needs to be full rect? And then we'll restart the game. No, okay. I'm not sure if this is changing or not. So its size is not, doesn't seem to be changing. Okay, so there's something wrong with this main menu node, which I think I made a center rect. Margin container. Okay. So is the expand flag the problem? Ugh. I had to shrink that back down. So it wasn't really to do with the other center container. Its problem was its parent. It's the parent that messed up here. Okay. So in the tutorial, the parent was, what's it called? What's this called here? Margin container. So we set a margin. We want the container to fit the window, and the toolbar of the viewport, open the layout menu and select the last option, fill rect. Okay, so menu, layout, full rect, main, it full select. Did I fix the problem? Ah, yes I did. Okay, so resetting that fixed the problem. And then the only other problem is I need to do something to change the font size of this based on the UI. Wonder if I can get hold of the font somehow. Or maybe I just ignore that problem just right now. But basically when you make it really small, the font should get smaller. That's probably just being a bit too picky on myself right at this point. Okay, so let's just ignore that particular problem. We'll just tweak the buttons a little bit. I'm just going to jump into Git and commit and 3D root. We deleted a bunch of stuff from there. We created a menu. The UI, we've created a menu and moved stuff to a game folder. There's a new menu button font. The UI scene has changed. Add a basic menu overlay and remove old UI craft from 3D root. Great. That's my commit. So now we're back to a nice place where I feel secure that you know, I can always revert if things go wrong. Excellent. Well, those things are a bit dark because they're behind the rectangle. So let's jump into Godot again. I think that we need to put the color rect above everything else so that it's painted. There we are. So the buttons are painted on top. And then we need to grab the menu button font and we'll menu button font settings and we'll bring that down to say 60. It'll do. Maybe, yeah, 60 will do fine. And then we'll look at these buttons. There's a trick about making a subclass of button and then using that instead so that we can use the same settings for all of them. Let's just go through these. I'm not going to do that though. It seems a bit of a pain in the ass right now. I'm going to make the image size slightly less. Okay. We'll add one more control after exit and we'll before exit here. D and move it down here. There's a little space here and here, and we'll make exit and exit. Resume has already got a minimum size of 120, so exit can also have that's probably fine. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good start of a main menu, right? Resume, one ship, local, options, leave game, exit. I'm just thinking a bit more, but I can improve things as you go along. Okay, so the only button right now that should work is the resume button. So if I hit resume, it goes back to the game. So we need a menu button. So I'm just going to put a little panel across the top of the screen and I will put a menu button over here. So in the game menu, we've got a bottom panel, which is this one down here. Let me just, right now I've got the main menu showing and this one hidden. So here's the game menu. And just quit the game for a second, even though I could do this live. Make this a little bit bigger. I should be able to do this quite easily enough. So inside the game, I want to create another panel and child node. So What we really have is like there's a 9 panel grid and child node. Let's stop searching and go into control and look inside container, and there's a 9 viewport. Okay, same for holding viewports. Tab container, mounted container, grid container. Or it's easier just to have panels. I was thinking a grid with the edges you know, the edges of the screen, but easier just to have panels that sit on the different places. So then we're going to add a child, which is a panel container. Let's just try a panel. We'll put it at the top of this here, and I'll call it top. And I'll change the layout so that it fills the whole top. And then rect, I'll set the minimum size on Y so that it's, say, 50 pixels high. Maybe. Yep. And then we'll take this button, let's put inside that a child node, which is a button, and just the regular button, and its text can be small menu. We'll duplicate this small menu TRS. And the small menu's font settings, let's make that say 18. We'll see that in a second. So we'll go into the button, and this button is called into menu, and its text just says menu. Or yeah. Right, you see it fiddly up the top there. Grow that down to the font. Custom fonts, pull across the small menu font, lap. So here's a button, and on the layout, center left, and let's create a child node, and it's a margin container, right? And the margin container, so the intermenu is inside margin container, and margin container layout is center left. Intermenu doesn't need anything special, and then margin containers custom constraints. We can make this 10, 10, 10, 10, like this. So the menu button kind of sits pretty like that. And then I feel like that font is still too small, 24. Right. And then this, I feel like this, I was expecting this panel to detect the size of its content and go, I need to grow. But I guess it doesn't do that. So let's just increase the size, its size to say 80. Why is this button sitting down so far? Layout. These two. Yes, left wide. Great, so that's stretching the button. So we'll make the 70 and reset the size, layout, top wide. Size, make that 60. Yeah, we've got an interesting situation where the button has stretched, which has stretched everything else, but I don't know, whatever on that. So if we push resume, so now we've got a menu button on the far left. Does nothing yet. Great. And then we've got this test text, which is just useful for me. It shows me information about what's currently under the cursor. I'm just going to pop it up inside of that panel. And we can specify that its layout is center like this. And when we run the game, okay, so this code is currently selected. Probably should be a signal sent by UI and picked up by the test text. But I don't feel confident in doing signals right now. I don't know enough about them. So I'll just modify the path so it's top and it's inside. It's not inside the margin container, so it's like that. And then we continue running. So resume. And then this here tells me something about the player. More relevant on the other version of the game. Am I? I'm in the version where I don't have ship cores. Anyway, it tells me more about what's going on with the player. Yeah. Okay. 2D menu. So we want to make this menu button open the main menu. So once for that, we go into pressed. We specify we want pressed. We're going to attach it to the UI script. So go connect, and as on menu button enter menu pressed. We call that function I made earlier called enter menu. Enter menu. And so far I'm just calling main every time. It doesn't actually do anything with that string. I'm just thinking later on I might have a reason to have multiple menus. Okay, so now we should be able to go through the loop of hitting resume, hit menu, hit resume, hit menu. Okay. So I have buttons here that essentially quit the game and set it up with one ship or local game. So what you see here is this is supposed to be the one ship mode where you can build a floor? No. What's going on here? None of the buttons are working. Weird. I must be hiding. Must be something hiding. It's important for me to see what's going on here. I'm not even sure what scene we're in. Scene. Remote. Make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So let's have a look what's going on in the other scene. So currently got a star world with ships and one ship, but I can't see it. So that route is visible. That's not visible. The star world is hidden. Okay, there we go. So now I can build floors. Cool. How am I going to go about launching the Star World? Launching the ships? Because I got this. This is the test. This is the test version. No, this is the full ship version. So this is the one where you can fly the ships around, right? So when I was defining the stuff earlier, I went inside of the 3D route and I turned off the star world. So if I run that again, it's like resume, ship core, place the ship core, off I go, that sort of thing. I hit the menu And the other thing is I placed a ship core as I hit the menu up here. I need something that interrupts that when you start clicking on a button, it doesn't place it in the world. Almost need like a way of catching clicks which are only inside the game. So there's a Star World. This is the real Star World, which has multiple ships, and then Standalone has a different one, which is just a mock-up of the Star World. It doesn't have the Rust script. I can't remember how many of my scripts try and refer to the Star World. Okay, so here in ship build, we try and get the Star World there. Track cursor. UI. So if I start mucking around with this, so the Star World usually is, there's two versions in the game. Star World's either this Rust class called Star World Link, that's its main script, and it creates spaceships and moves them around. So when you're playing the full game using the proper Star World, you have this and you have these little spaceships and you can place multiple of them. And you can jump in one and you can move it around. So in terms of what's going on in the scene, is that the Rust class is creating these ships, 1, 2, 3, which are sub-scenes within the Star World class. You see them here, right? And if I click on one of these, I'm not sure which one's which. So I'm flying. Oh, actually, I've got the right one. So if you look down here, you'll see that the X and Y locations, as I move my ship around, are actually being updated in this node. So that's how that node is moving. And then, you know, those are the other two ships. And yeah, as I do things like adjusting the floor, the internal logic of that. So if I was to zoom in on this, and I'll just show you this floor tiles. You'll see it's almost empty. Right, that's the floor itself. And then inside of floor we have the modules, and there's all the walls, right? But if I was to add a flight desk, there's no ghost for the flight desk. There's some more UI stuff to worry about. But I had three of these. They've turned up here as flight consoles in the tree. And that's another script that's running inside the ship, also in Rust. So when I'm worrying about the standalone version, in the standalone version, I don't have the Star World. I just have something that looks like one to the rest of my UI code, and it has a single one of these ships, and it doesn't move around. The player can't move it. It also doesn't contain. The player is also maintained by the Star World. In this version, in Star World, you'll see, as well as ships, there are bipeds, and that's the player pucks that are moving around, the little dudes that you can control. So how does one go about creating and destroying this stuff? So we made some stuff visible. So we had another thing that was missing, which was some of the UI. Some of the game UI is invisible. So when I went to play, I noticed in my ship, I tried to play some stuff and it had an invisible UI. So conveyor has no placement ghost, and that's cursor 3D, And then all these buttons. There's a placement ghost. So what's going on with the remote UI cursor 3D? Why can't I see a cursor? This cursor, that's visible. UI. That's not visible. So the whole UI made itself invisible. I forgot that I did that. So, and that was so if I go into menu, there's no UI. Resume. Okay, so we need to remember as we return from the UI into exit menu. So here it was, there's a hide here somewhere. Well, did I define it here as being hidden? No. Okay, so where is UI getting hidden? Or is that inside the menu that I did that? No, I still didn't hide the menu from here. So why is UI hidden? Game UI 2D hides. Yeah, that's fair enough. Menu hide. I'm confused. What's hiding this UI node? Try one more time. Run this. Remote. UI. It's not visible. On resume, it's still not visible. I can make it visible, which gives me my cursor back. But when I open the menu, it becomes invisible again. My question is, what's making... No, it's currently visible. Okay. But it's not tracking the cursor. Now I'm really confused. Because this little cursor here should be flying around behind my cursor as I move it around. Process should still be getting called. Yep. I'm perplexed. I don't think I've changed. Let's have a look at what I've changed so far. It's fine. Yep. Those are fine. This is defining the UI scene itself. Don't know if I made, yeah, so I made the menu invisible by default. Okay. What did I do on the previous commit? Diff UI into the menu main. It's hiding and showing the menu, but it's not hiding and showing itself. Okay. So if I had to guess, I'd say the reason why is because I'm also hiding parts of the 2D UI. So inside here, there's the UI 2D and there's a game UI. Is the game still hidden? Oh, it's marked as visible. And inside that, the cursor default should be visible, but it's not. So we'll turn that on. Oh, it's currently hit a breakpoint. I don't know why it's on a breakpoint. So inside the cursor default, not visible on tree. Yes, the default cursor counts as being invisible, and as it's invisible, it won't let me have a cursor. Game is visible. Canvas layer should be visible. It always is. UI 2D. Let's see if that one says visible. I mean, it must be visible. Oh, there's even an option here for it to be invisible. Okay. And then there's the UI itself. I'm very perplexed. Very perplexed. Exit all. Into menu. Menu show, into menu, exit menu. Menu hide. Yeah. That's a bit of a frustrating end to this whole thing. Let's see if there's any warnings out of Godot. Can't find item panel, plane, item viewport. Node not found bipeds, which is inside the star world. Okay. Yeah, I'm still stumped. UI, because everything seems to be visible as 2D stuff. I changed this so in the UI, we've got our game is visible from the start and our menu is invisible from the start, and then we go into UI script and I remove this line that says enter menu. If I do that, does it mean we go straight into the game? Yep, but the cursor's still not working. Now the cursor's working. Okay. It's possible that this bug has been in the game forever. I just never noticed it before because the first thing I did was to build something. The conveyor's working. Okay, so could it be that the reason why I've got a problem is I need to enter a certain mode? Like this cursor default has an enter mode, so I need to say enter default when we exit the menu. We'll just put that there, and that shows the default cursor. That might be the reason why it's not working. And then I'll uncomment this into menu main, and we'll see if that works. Resume. So see that cursor's not following me. But I place a ship core, and now the cursor's working. I wonder if there's like a soft bug where if there's no ships, something's constantly dying every frame and it's causing the update to fail. Or could it be that there's something about placing like into ship build, so it uses placement ghost and sets the ghost into that mode, followed by exit all. So when we're done, it's the ship build. So cursor ship build is inside UI 2D, inside game, cursor ship build. I want to have a look at the script. When I enter, sorry about the glitching on the camera here, I really should fix that. It's the go.debugging debugging problem. Wonder what it's doing that is making everything start working. We exit to default. We tell the UI to enter default. Exit menu. Yeah, that also says enter default. Oh. Maybe it's just bugs to do with what happens when there's no ships in the game. Stop. I need to think about that a bit more and maybe create the initial ship automatically as soon as the game starts. Or it wouldn't be very much Rust code to add that feature. It's something I've been really wanting to do for some time, which is that. Let's do that now. So there's a file called singleton, or this server, and the network code. There we know we're in Rust code now. It defines a simulation, and there's something in here which creates a new server. Where are we? SG server, source of this, main. We run a server. We generate a sector. That's the one. Where is generate sector? So if I go back here and I pop this code into Star World link, and there's a place here where we get the online state, and this is starting a local client, local test client. So it creates a test sector with player and space. So this is with small ship. The ship and pilot. So let's say of function simple local game and returns. So we're going to return something similar to what we had before, which is a test sector. It's going to return a test sector like that, and it needs to create a sector, get the space. We don't want to add players, so create a test sector. This is the thing that has a fake server and a fake client in it. connected together by a vector rather than a networked one. Version of space out of there. We don't want to add a player, that's why there's an extra person in there. And then we want this function called generate sector, which makes asteroids. And why is... Oh, I think we need to generate space. Generate sector. Does a test sector have a server? It does. So now I've lost my place. Test sector. So down here we need to say mute sector dot server. There we go. So we pass that in and it will create some asteroids, I think. Yeah, so it adds one spaceship and some asteroids. So let's push the asteroid field a bit further away. And so there's one off to the far left, one off minus 1000. Two little asteroid fields. This one we can push down a bit, let's say 40. Okay. So there's a spaceship and a couple of asteroid fields. In our test sector. And then we need to return sector. Great. And then we're going to use simple local game to create this. I don't think we have to do it here. It's a bit further down. Or was it in client? Yeah, it was. We'll modify this so it's simple local game. And then if I project list, yes. And then I can run this down here. Game. This will compile it in Rust and then flick over to Godot and we'll launch it up with this new simulation and see if it looks any good. Okay, so hit resume. So in this, if we jump in the ship, yeah, so there's some asteroids over here. So they're not based on the seed, and also there's no collision detection at the moment, so you can just fly straight through them. And then my main question was if I jump out of here and I've got a cursor that works, conveyors can be placed, bam, and I can hit the menu button and resume menu. That cursor is still there. Resume. So one thing I'm thinking is that when you hit the menu button, it should probably hide the UI. So let's try that. Okay. Script. Wonder where to put my face. So ignore the, yeah, I don't want to. Maybe I'll use VS Code, or I don't know. What was I going to do? Oh, I was going to jump into UI. This font is too small. Wow. Yeah, that's why I wanted to use VS Code. I'm going to make it bigger like this. That's good. I'm starting to get a bit tired. I've been streaming and coding quite hard for the last 2 hours. So go to UI. So if I push play, where are we at now? It comes into here, we hit resume, we can move up to the ship, jump in, jump out, hit the menu button. Exit doesn't do anything. All these buttons just exit the menu because they're all set up the same way. So I need to, next thing I'm going to do is have to go through all these buttons and make them actually do something useful. These two need to restart the game, but in different modes, which involves invoking certain Rust code, and then this one shows an options menu. This one leaves this game, which is kind of like clicking local, I think, and then exit. Yeah. But I feel like that's a pretty nice place to leave it. So thanks very much for dropping by to watch my stream. I hope you enjoyed watching some code. If you could, it'd be great if you check me out on Twitter at the Recall Singularity. I post regular updates about what I'm currently working on. And I mentioned that's one way you want to find me, or I'm on Reddit or Discord, where we like to talk about streams on a regular basis and do other fun stuff, support your own development. Thanks so much for dropping by, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much, and good night, goodbye, good day, see you later. Thank you.